Hey, how are you guys? It is Tuesday night. I'm Melissa Mann, and now that I'm oriented to person, place, and time, places, I'm home. We can get started. But I am back to my normal Tuesday night time. Things are sort of back in place now. I know last week was a little weird. I was in Michigan for a few days, and I tried to do a live there. Service was weird, so I did one Thursday, and I am back. Things are back to normal. I know what day it is. It's good. So I'm back to work today. That was lovely, actually. It's interesting. I realized that after having been off work for over a week, that like I was totally de-stressed, and I guess that's really how long it takes. That's very interesting. And I'm asking myself, what energy, space, and consciousness can I be to have that sense of peace and relaxation, not just when I have a week off of work, but that was definitely an eye-opener. So I had a week off of work. We went on vacation. Then my best friend in Portland came into town, and she was here until last night. I took her back to the airport, and this morning it was kind of boom, back to work. But it was good. Kind of getting back into things. So that's what's going on with me. I know you asked. But what I wanted to talk to you tonight is something that I meant to kind of come on here and talk about for a while. And I just haven't felt it was the right time yet. I don't know. But it's definitely what's showing up in sort of all of my sessions with people lately, and even some awarenesses in my own life is around relationships, and mostly romantic relationships. And we can talk a lot about all sorts of relationships: your relationship with your parents, your relationship with your kids, relationships with your friendships. But what I've found lately is that a number of people I'm working with are either single and dating, or are divorced or going through divorces, things like that, and sort of navigating that world of what it is they're looking for in a relationship, and how to navigate that whole world. And it's really interesting, kind of what kinds of things show up for people. And I'm watching The Bachelorette. I know I'm such a sucker for that kind of stuff. I don't normally watch reality TV. It's like the one reality show one of my friends made me watch so we could discuss it years ago, and I'm like annoyingly addicted, and judge me if you will. But I don't watch much TV at all, and that is the trash I watch. I know. So I hope nobody's offended by calling it trash. I watch it. But but it's interesting. Obviously those are not normal like dating situations, but it is interesting to kind of watch relationships and like what kinds of things show up. So we'll pretend that I watch that from like a psychological research perspective and not just out of guilty pleasure. So there's that. But it was interesting. I had a client walk in this morning talking about the relationship that he was in. And this is kind of an interesting case, and without giving away any real information, this is a person who's been in this relationship for years. And this is in my therapy practice, so I started seeing him in a state of pretty bad depression, suicidal stuff. And he is way better now. So I wish I could take all the credit for that. I'd like to take some of it, but but generally, people do most of the work on their own once you give them the tools, and he's doing great. But the relationship that he's in has been suffering because his partner had kind of been the savior, the one keeping everything together, being the shoulder to cry on, all of those things. And now that this particular person is doing so much better, the relationship is suffering because the roles have shifted. And we talked about today about how when somebody changes, gets better, whatever it is in a relationship, how that can shift a relationship. And either we need to grow together or something else has to occur. So what was most poignant about this today, that brought me to want to talk about this tonight, was that the partner in the situation was totally unwilling to be vulnerable, to talk about anything that was going on in his world, and wasn't able to kind of be like, hey, I'm struggling with this is hard for me, I have my own stuff, just totally was not willing to do that. And that's truly where the relationship suffers. And I don't know what will happen in that story, but how much being willing to be vulnerable in any relationship truly is, even in friendships, even in, family relationships, things like that, and how important that can be. Because when we shut down or put up big walls, that's where we start to have these big disconnects. So I started thinking about that in relationships and in the dating world as people are going into finding a relationship or looking for relationships, and the walls that get put up in the dating process in this swiping world where I sit around with my single friends and swipe on Bumble or Tinder or whatever newest thing is out. It's so face value. You get, one quick screen to show you to the world, and it's so filtered and it's so made up. It's like not real anymore. And there is zero vulnerability there. And so we all have these walls that are so high up around us to the whole world. And we think that we're protecting ourselves, but in reality, we're actually keeping ourselves in and everybody else out. And so that we're not actually having relationship at all. So I wanted to go through a little bit from a couple quick resources, but just that I thought were so valuable, and then talk a little bit more about this. But first of all, from Access Consciousness, they talk about five elements. I was like, I'm going to forget the word, of intimacy. And I'm not going to go into all of those. There's a lot to them. And I think either in relationships done different course, or we talk about this in the Foundations course. But the 5 elements are honor, trust, allowance, gratitude, and vulnerability. So like I said, it would be an awesome telecall series. Maybe I'll do something like that at some point on that. But today, what I wanted to talk to you about is vulnerability, like I said, because I was just seeing all these walls. And let's see, where do I want to start with that? So vulnerability is being willing to receive anything, including the fact the person is an asshole, and that you're an asshole sometimes. In vulnerability, you're willing to show up, warts and all, and not try to prove that you're perfect. Not try to prove that you've got it all together, but to be there with a sense of no walls, no barriers, no wrongnesses, and no rightnesses. Vulnerability is not about being a doormat. You can say, I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. That's not acceptable. So I love that about like showing up as you. And I was thinking about all my people in my world who are going out on dates and are showing up as what they think the other person's looking for, what they think somebody else wants, what they read in 800 articles on how to get the man or how to get the woman to love you forever or how to get sex tonight or whatever it is that people are thinking that they're supposed to show up as. And they're showing up as everything other than them. And what would it be like if you're dating or if you're married, for, all argument's sake, and to show up as you, not what you think the person wants, not what you think you're supposed to be, not, I don't know, I have a couple of friends that I've talked to about with work regarding interviewing and working and all those things who talk about sending in the representative. And I've always said, like, I get that in a business setting. Of course you have to know your audience. Of course there's going to be some amount of like what you need to show up as if you're working in a high corporate job. I get that. And in relationships and in dating and in anytime you're connecting with somebody, sending in your representative, that shell of a person that you think you're supposed to be, is doing nobody any good. It's a disservice to you and that person. Wouldn't you rather just go in and be you and then see what that creates? And then when you have this relationship, or you've gone on 3 dates or 5 dates or whatever it is, and you're seeing what shows up next, then you don't feel like, oh, well, I still have to tell them about this and this and this and all that. There's my crazy family. And then there's this, I got to tell them about, if I have kids and I have to tell them this. And you've held all of this stuff where you haven't told anybody or this yet. And you've portrayed your social media version of yourself in person. And now you have to do all that at some point. It's interesting. I have another client I see who's been dating somebody for a while. And she's like, I don't want to introduce him to my family or, very brief, interactions that he's had with my family because I'm so afraid he won't want to be with me anymore if he sees how crazy my family is. And I was like, well, he's not dating your family, he's dating you. And God, if people didn't date me because of my family, I would be very single. And if any of my family is watching this, I'm sorry. But if we go in and pretend that our lives are perfect, that we're perfect, that we have it all together 100% of the time, how fun is that? And how is that creating anything? I was thinking about this earlier, what I kind of wanted to talk about, and I have this memory that comes to mind from a previous relationship that was not healthy, but it started healthy. And but it's a memory that comes to mind of my parents screaming at each other. And we'd been dating like a week and I was still like, I don't know, 18, 19, 20, I don't know, I was young. But, and he was there and saw the whole thing and I was a little embarrassed, but I was so grateful that he saw that he was able to see like what I grew up in and what my life was. And it was like he knew me better because of seeing that experience. And like I said, in watching The Bachelor and The Bachelorette and all this stuff on TV, it's interesting too because it seems like everybody is like, oh, I come from a great family and I need them to come from a great family. And I'm like, God, you guys are like crossing off like half the universe as a result. And everybody's got shit. So it's just a matter of how much are you masking your shit. And it's just interesting kind of watching like when there's been like a contender, I don't know the word, a bachelor, bachelorette, one of the people on there trying to win the person. And like their family is less than perfect. And it seems like that's like, oh, that's a factor. And I'm like, hell yeah, I want that person. I want somebody who knows that life isn't perfect and has been through shit and came out on the other side stronger. So it's so interesting how we think that everybody's going to judge us, or we worry that people are going to judge us, or if you're judging other people by that, boy, are we missing out, So where is this? So this is from Relationship, Are You Sure You Want One? Which is Brenda Watt and Simone Milas's book. And I love it because it gets rid of the whole idea that like you have to have a relationship in order to be happy, but also like what a happy, healthy relationship can look like and how it's maybe different than we've given ourselves or the society has given us this idea. But anyways, I just wanted to read you this little bit. So it says, we don't just build walls, we build fortresses around us. They're supposedly there to keep us safe, yet we actually keep ourselves in. Vulnerability is the willingness to acknowledge that you're not perfect and you don't need to be. It's the realization that you have got some really cool stuff going on and some not so cool stuff going on. I'm sorry, I can't read this evening. You don't hide from anyone and anything. Most of all, you don't hide the brilliance of you. We always think that what we hide the most is our pettiness or anger. The truth is that most often behind the anger and the smallness, we hide our brilliance. There's a little more, something else I wanted to say that's on another page. Vulnerability is a huge strength in any relationship, even in a business relationship. I see so many people defend themselves when there is a problem rather than admitting they are wrong. It takes vulnerability to tell someone with sincerity, I was being such an asshole. I'm really sorry. What can I do to make up for the damage done? Admitting that you've acted like a bitch or an asshole is disarming, and it will create far greater possibilities than judging yourself or fighting to prove that you are right. So, if you've created some crap in your life, be vulnerable enough to admit it to yourself. Yes, I've created some crap. Now what would I like to choose? What would I like to add to my life now? And it goes on. But I love that about in a relationship, in building a relationship, in having a relationship, to say, hey, I screwed up. Hey, I did this thing. Let's talk about it. How can we fix it? Instead of going into defense, well, I wouldn't have done this if you didn't do that, and I wouldn't have, you created this, or all the blame and the shame and all the things that can go into things. Instead of coming out and saying, yeah, I did, I screwed up. I'm not perfect. I mess up sometimes. And what can we do? How can we fix it? What can I do? What can I be? And owning it. And having that on both ends. That only works that way if it works on both ends. If one person's doing that and the other person says to you, yeah, you did screw up, it's all your fault, that's not what you're looking for, right? And only you know what you're truly looking for, so I can't tell you that. But what I do know is that in any relationship, if you're willing to show up as you will create far greater possibilities. Because who we can be in a relationship is who you already are. And sometimes in a beautiful space, that person can be a contribution to you. And you can be a contribution to them. And you create even more. And that's the energy that I think most of us are actually looking for in relationships. Is who can I add to my life so that I can be me and then some. And then find parts of myself that this person brings out. That I love being around them because of who I am when I'm around them. But that I'm still me. And I don't need this person to complete me. I am enough on my own. And they're enough on their own. And we just get together and hang out and have fun and make life together. Does that make sense? It's interesting because I can look at different relationships in my life, even as I'm talking about this, and think about how different people create different things for me. My friend Lindy, who was just here, it's my friend, right? I mean, we're not lovers. She's my friend. I love her, but right. But she is my total, complete opposite, in that she is the least linear. And we'll say, let's do this, and let's go here, and let's go here. And we always have these crazy adventures together, and things I would never do on my own. We went to Chinatown kind of on a, day before we kind of planned it out. We're like, all right, we'll go to Chinatown, downtown Chicago after we did an architecture tour in Chicago, which if you've never been to Chicago, if you come to Chicago, that is the thing to do. So we did that. And then we went to Chinatown, and we, she walked in a restaurant and felt the energy of the space, and I was like, nope. We left. We went somewhere else until she was like, no, this is it. And that's her. And that's amazing. And I'm not like that. But I have so much fun when I'm with her, and I love being that. And she adds something to me. And that's awesome to have a friend like that to be like, wow, we're super different, and I love being around you. And, and then she looks at me and says, God, you're so linear. I need help with that. And we contribute to one another in that way. And that's so cool. And that's a friendship. And I can look at my relationship with my husband, and that's a totally different energy. And also awesome. And we contribute to each other, and he makes me laugh. And I'm, I've said many times, I'm not a funny person. I love humor, but I don't generate it. I suck it in, and I don't know. But he just makes me laugh out loud, and he's hilarious, and he's fun. And when we're together, there's something that's like the thing with Lindy, but different, because there's a romance and a fun and a funny, and everything is lighter. And yet he grounds me, because I am a dreamer, and I get in here about all the things I'm going to do and be and create. And I love that about myself, and I will keep being that. But he's also like, and you still need to sit down and do your finances, which in my world, I'm like, I don't want to think about money. That's so serious. So how different people contribute to me, and what I might be contributing to them that I don't even know or see, and I'm sure you can look at people in your life, in any relationship, and whether it's in a romantic relationship or in friendships or in your relationship with your brother or your sister, and how they contribute to you, and how those energies come together to create something even greater. And if you're dating, and if you're looking for that, or you're looking for something in the world like that, I just encourage you to be in your own control and power and confidence and all that, so that 1000% who you are, what you have to contribute, And what else would add to your life that would just be fun for you? And it doesn't have to be so serious all the time about, I need to find a mate so that I can be complete, or so that I can have this cookie cutter 2.5 kids white picket fence life. What works for you in your world? And how might you find that? And I don't know if it's even about seeking it so much as being it and allowing it. That's a whole nother one live to talk about allowance and allowing things to be and come to you. But I've probably talked enough on this tonight. But you know, it's funny, I got on here and I don't know that I gave a real intro as to why I was talking about this. So let me say that backwards because, you know, like I said, I'm working on being less linear here. You know, I just, as a confidence coach, something that's been occurring to me is how many facets in people's lives that actually has something to do with. And we talk about it a lot around business, around professionals. I work with a lot of professionals who want to exude confidence at work so that they're getting the promotions, they're getting the positions, all the things that they're wanting. But what comes up a lot is romance and love and relationships and marriage and all of the ways that we have relationships in our world, not just in a business space. And so what's been occurring to me is how having that true, I don't want to say solid because I don't want to make it solid, but that true confidence, the true ability to walk into a room and be like, yeah, what's up? This is me. I'm here. Judge me. Do whatever you're going to do. I'm still me. That energy permeates everything in your life. Not just work, not just business, not just... It's a joy of living. It's the adventure of living. And whether that has to do with the relationship you have with your mother, or the relationship you have with a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband, or your children, anybody, everybody in your life. But it all starts and all comes back to how you relate to you, because that is the first relationship in your life. So when you can figure that out, everything else gets so much easier. So if that's something you're struggling with, if that's something you want help around, if that's something you want to really rein in, please feel free. Go to my website, journeytopresent.com/call, and it'll take you straight to my schedule. You set up a free call. We get on the phone. It's free. Decide if we can work together. Decide if it works. And if it doesn't, I'll tell you somewhere else to go to or where else you could seek out resources. And if it works, awesome. Then we can figure that out and how we can work together. So, yeah, I think that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you next Tuesday night at 7:15 Central Standard Time. Have a good night, you guys. Bye-bye.